Hello everyone, Parallel here. Welcome to Star Trek Online. Finally, the winter event grind is over. We can all finally relax, sit back, and enjoy the fruits of our grinding. I'm coming to you here from the bridge of the new Breen Chel Boalg Warship Tier 6. This is the reward for the winter event. This is what we've all been grinding so hard for the last 25 plus days. If you were a slacker like me and missed a few days, you just got this ship yesterday, but for those of you dedicated grinders out there, you got this a few days ago. So in this video, I am going to be taking a in-depth look at this ship. We'll take a look at the ship in action, and also my build that I'm using on this. I'll go through all the build in detail and describe everything as far as the gear, the skills, traits, Doffs, all that good stuff. And finally, we'll take a look at the ship visuals. So here we go, the Chel Boalg Warship. And definitely a big congratulations to everyone out there. If you were able to withstand the grind, you got yourself a fantastic ship. So we'll start it off that way. Now, first thing, you can actually see I'm here on the bridge. This is the new, well, I don't want to say new. This is actually the same Breen Bridge that has been in the previous ships, but it looks completely different under the new lighting engine. So under lighting 2.0, you can see this bridge looks a lot different. I'll kind of pan around here. Let's go ahead and keep the UI hidden a little bit. But as I pan around, you can see it definitely takes a different character with the new lighting engine. You've got multiple light sources. You've got these glowing red pylons all throughout the bridge. I don't even remember those being there before, but now they are actually light sources. Now you can have multiple light sources in the new engine. It still has the characteristic Breen cryogenic fluid spraying out in the fans, so it still has that cold look to it. So yeah, there is the Breen Bridge. All right, so I'm going to change things up just a little bit this time and start out by going right into the action first and go into the build details after that. So let's go ahead and queue up for a good old Infected Space Advanced. Where are you, ISA? I think I passed you. There you are. This will just be a pickup group. Ooh, nice fast queue pop. This will just be a pickup group, so we'll see how this goes. Anything can happen, of course. But yeah, this ship, I have some pretty high hopes for this ship. This is classified as a warship, and warships in Star Trek Online have a pretty high pedigree. You've got the Nandi warship and the Cryonic Imperium warship, all very, very good ships, and we'll see how this one stacks up. But putting that warship tag on the ship, that sets some high expectations. Let's see how this thing does. Certainly for a free ship, I'm thinking this will be an excellent ship. And we'll take a look at it together here in this video. All right, here we go. All right, we are in. Just so everyone is aware, I am running a pedal to the metal build on this. So I'm going to try to keep this thing at full throttle. It looks like we got a scimitar in here ready to chew things up. This is a pretty maneuverable ship, and I would say it's more tanky than an escort, but it's definitely not a cruiser. Let's do it that way. In my testing of the ship, I have blown up a few times, so we'll say that in advance. It is possible. All right, let's get on this transformer. Let's get. I'm going to start taking some pretty serious damage here. Let's go ahead and pop the Kobali. Get that going. Oh crap, I missed my go down fighting. I should have hit that first. I was a little worried about dying. Let's take out the little group of spheres that spawn in. Always good for padding the deeps. Let's go past all that good stuff. Alright, let's head over to point 2. We'll go ahead and pop our Iconium. Alright, let's get everything going. Let's get our red matter capacitor up and going. Let's get Pentagon Alpha. get on the transformer. Let's go ahead and throw down the entertainment on there. Definitely going to start taking some damage here when all the spheres come in. I am running also feedback pulse on this build, which means I am building a little bit to take some aggro, even though the ship is not super tanky. Ooh, almost put the dust there. Let's do this. Let's get probability manipulation going. Let's go ahead and get this gateway down. We have a lot of aggro here. I'm going to go ahead and pop my Singularity to drop some aggro. Let's go ahead and mark this target. This is gonna hurt, this is gonna hurt. There we go. That was a pretty good group. Alright, definitely good group, good run. Let's see how this ship did. Alright, GG, that's right. Oh, looks like someone posted it. Let's see what we got here. Remora. 139? That can't be right. I've never gotten that high on the DPS meter. Wow. Okay. That's pretty crazy. And this guy's healing me. Oh yeah? Well, I'm gonna heal you too. Aha. Alright, well that was fun. Let's go ahead and head out of here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up the parse in Stow Combat Meter. So excuse me while I'm going to tab away here. Analyze log. And let me bring this up in OBS so you guys can see it. Oh my goodness. Wow. Look at that. 140k. That is a personal best for me. Whew. So that was a good run. Let's go ahead and take a look at the breakdown. That was yeah, I think that Scimitar was also quite capable. That was a very fast run for a pickup group, that's for sure. So there we go. Let's go ahead and do a player combat analysis. And it's a different window. Hold on here. I gotta bring it up. Cool. I think you can see that now. This is a pretty straightforward build for one reason, which I'll get into here very shortly. But we can just, oops, let's go over to me. And let's look at my breakdown of damage. Yep, definitely fire at will, top DPS, and disruptor. Yes, I'm using the coalition disruptors. Feedback pulse, wow. Yeah, I was taking quite a few hits there. Even with a few aggro drops that I did, still was pulling in 18k from the feedback pulse. Wow. Lots of plasma explosions, even a Tropic Rider. That, man, that does so good from the temporal spec. It parses quite well. For pets, I'm not even sure. I didn't call my fleet. Drain Infection was getting, 2.5k. It's not bad. Chemocyte was right up there, 2.5k. And nothing else of worth mentioning. I'm just going to quickly look at those pets real quick. Oh, that was the anti-time singular. Wow, that thing by itself did 3k. I just dropped that on the second transformer there. All right, so there is the parse, guys. You can see this ship holds up. Wow, and it can perform quite well, right up there with the other warships, I would say. Especially for the pro builders out there running with pre-mades. Man, I'm sure this thing can push. I mean, if I can get 140k on this in a pickup group, I'm sure pre-mades, you guys can get well into probably 200s, I would say. So yeah, right off the bat, this thing definitely lives up to the name of warship. Definitely deserves that title. All right. So let's get into the build. And just real quick, since I'm out here in space and I'm taking a look at the ship, let's just get a quick look at the visuals. Since we just saw this thing in action, I am using the Iconian space set. That is why it has this look. I think it looks fantastic with the Iconian space set. I will show you, of course, unmodified in the ship Tailor, what it looks like. And you can also use the old Chel Boalg appearance on this as well. So I can show that in the ship Tailor when we head down after we take a look at the build. Very good looking ship, though. I actually like it. Even as a Breen ship, it has a little bit of symmetry to it. The bridge pod and this kind of wing structure is actually symmetrical. The asymmetrical part, like most Breen ships, is the kind of, I'm not sure what you call these. They're pylons, or, I mean, they're almost the nacelle too. But, yep, they've got, they're asymmetrical, but they fit quite well together. I think it looks pretty good. I mean, it really has, I mean, you can kind of see it almost has, I don't want to say X-wing, but it's got the 4 pods, right? 2 below the wing here, and then 2 above. And yeah, it just looks fantastic. In fact, looking at this now, I think my favorite part with the Iconian is the these little the coloring here with the red and black looks great, but also you got like these 4 like protrusions here. It looks almost like claws. I think that looks really good with the red on the black accent there. Kind of a neat little decal. But yeah, there is the ship with the Iconian set. Really, really good looking ship. And performs incredibly well. And I'll try to break down the build. If you've seen any of my build videos, you know that I like to go into a lot of detail. And I will, of course, do that here. Yeah, just because I do like to actually explain explain to everyone why I chose the gear that I did, and how to obtain the gear that I did. I do like to give that little bit of extra detail so people know, why I'm actually signing these things, not just showing it, but actually explaining why everything is here, and then where to get it. In case you are looking to create a similar build, you will know what to do. All right, with that, let's start in on the build. First thing we will go through is the gear. Actually, first thing we'll go through is a ship mastery. Like I said, I did actually level this up. I did get this ship a couple days later than most people, but I did spend yesterday grinding out, Argalas and going through the Borg red alerts. Good XP there for grinding out your starship mastery. But you'll start to see with the mastery why the ship has so much potential. So this actually uses the destroyer starship mastery, which is an excellent mastery. So you've got the first tier is your 5% accuracy, meh, but the rest are good. You got your crit severity, excellent. Crit chance, very good. And then you've got your kinetic and all energy, very good. And then you've got the trait. I did actually run this trait during that mission, which requires you to use Energy Siphon. So this trait is called Cryonic Siphon. Energy Siphon reduces shield hardness and damage resistance. So this is kind of like a single target. It turns it into a single target damage resistance debuff. Kind of actually nice. A really good effect. The only downside is, of course, you have to use Energy Siphon, which is kind of a niche ability. If you're going out for like an all-out drain build, I could see this being a very good trait for that. But even in the run I just did, it's still a pretty decent trait. Nothing wrong with stacking up a little more damage resistance debuff onto your targets. The only downside is, like I said, Energy Siphon is a little bit niche, and the starship traits are at a premium. You only got 5 slots, so slotting this one in means you are giving up something somewhere else. So that is the trait of the ship. All right, so yeah, now that we've done that, let's go ahead and jump into the gear itself. Actually, before we even go there, how about we take a look at the description of the ship? Because there are a few things. Like I said, this is considered a destroyer. It gets the destroyer mastery, and it behaves as a destroyer, which means it kind of fits midway in between the escort and the cruiser. It's kind of an in-between ship. It's not as tanky as the cruiser, and it's not as maneuverable as the escort, but it combines the traits, so it has more hull, more hull strength than an escort, and it's also a lot more maneuverable than a cruiser. It kind of fills that nice little middle area, and it works quite well for this ship. Now, if you want to actually to pull up the details on the ship, I'm actually going to go into the store where you get it. So, as I'm sure you are aware, if you've earned this ship, you do this by completing the winter event and the daily quest. Now, and complete the project for the winter event. If you want to see all the details on how to get this ship, I recommend you check out my previous video, which goes into all that detail. Here, I'm just going to show you that once you've unlocked the ship, once you complete the project, you can come here to the Events tab in your Reputation, go to Store, go to Account Reclaim, and then the ship will be here and you'll be able to purchase it. I already have it here, so I can't get it again, but it will be highlighted here if you've unlocked the project, if you've completed the project. The nice thing is, it is in the same place on all of your alts. So once you've completed the project on one character, it does unlock on all of your alts. And yes, I did check on all of my alts. They were able to claim it. So I know in previous years there was sometimes a bug with being able to claim it on alts. But this time around, Cryptic did a good job, and it actually works properly first time out of the gate. So there it is. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the details here. So, what makes this a warship? Like the Nandi and the Crenum, warships tend to be for all-out offense. They usually have either like an extra weapon slot or an extra bridge officer slot, something that kind of sets them apart above and beyond other ships of the same class. And that's what makes this ship so powerful, I think, is that warship classification makes it more powerful than your standard destroyer. So it behaves like a destroyer, but the key thing is right here. You can see it gets a 4-4 weapon configuration. Most of your other destroyers out there, like the Mogai, those all have a 4-3 configuration. But this is, this has the full 4-4 of a cruiser, but it has the traits, the mastery, and the maneuverability of a destroyer. That's what makes it strong. Just like the Nandi, kind of had that extra bridge officer slot and also had a 4-4 layout. So it fits right in there with the warship classification, which are quickly becoming my favorite ships. The Nandi was also a truly excellent ship. So, all right, so let's take a look at the rest of the attributes here of the ship. So hull strength, you're going to get a 48,000 hull at level 60. Pretty decent hull. I mean, like I said, it is a destroyer. It's not going to be up there. The strongest cruisers out there will have a 60,000 hull, but 48,000 is not bad. Certainly a lot better than most of your escorts out there, which will be in the 30,000s. So, yep, in between on the hull. Shield modifier of 1, kind of meh. Your average shield modifier, not great, but not terrible. 4 weapons, aft weapons, 4-4, I already mentioned that. It does have 3 device slots, so you do give up a device slot as a destroyer. All right, another thing that makes this ship stand out is the bridge officers. The bridge officer station's layout is truly excellent. I really like this bridge officer layout, with only the slight downside of a slight lack of engineering. If it had 1 more engineering slot, I'd be happier. But let's quickly go through. You get a commander tactical, which is excellent because it is a destroyer, so you don't have to have the commander engineer of like a cruiser. You've got a lieutenant engineer. You've got a lieutenant commander science intel, 1 ensign universal, and 1 lieutenant commander universal. Now, I mentioned this right at the beginning of the video, but what makes this build a little bit different than what I was planning on is this right here, the Lieutenant Commander Science Intel. When Cryptic first announced this ship, it was announced as a Lieutenant Commander Science / Temporal, not Intel. And that also would have been a pretty interesting ship. I think the temporal seating on here, since this ship does have quite a bit of science capabilities, like if you make the Universal Commander, Lieutenant Commander Universal into a science, and you have another Lieutenant Commander Science, that is 6 science seats with 2 Lieutenant Commander slots. That's actually quite good. For anything outside of a science ship, that's quite good. And you could run some temporal abilities on there. You could have slapped on like a channel deconstruction and some entropic redistribution for kind of a sciencey flavor to this ship. But alas, it appears that it does in fact a Intel, which means it's kind of back to the old energy weapon meta. You can still have a bit of a science flavor to it, which I do, but It'll be quite a bit less than if this were a temporal seat. But with Intel, you do get the so powerful override subsystem safeties, which I think contributes greatly to this ship, since you are running a full 8 beam arrays on this thing. Override subsystem safeties will be excellent. So I don't think it loses any power from the Intel seat. It just loses a little bit of flavor. I think with a temporal seat on there, it would have been a little more sciencey and a little more unique. But so there it is. It is going to be an Intel slot. Certainly powerful, but just not as interesting. All right, consoles. You've got 4 tactical, 4 engineering, and 3 science. Pretty good console layout. My personal preference would have been to trade one of those engineering for a science, but still pretty balanced layout. I mean, nothing too bad here. One extra science plasma exploder console would have been a welcome change, but still not bad. A good balanced layout. You've got a 13 degrees per second turn rate. That is quite good. Like I said, a little less than escorts, but still very maneuverable. Let's see, impulse modifier 0.18. Yeah, it's not the fastest in the world either. Inertia 50, so it's still decent. Again, in between the escort / cruiser, right in the middle there. Plus 15 to weapons power, plus 5 to engine power. And you get the console, the universal enhanced Breen energy dissipator. I was not running this console for the ISA run, but what I plan to do at the end of the video is show off this console kind of by itself in just a Argala run or something like that, which I can just slow down and actually show everyone the console, the graphics, the particle effects, the actual effect. So I'll do that at the end, just so you know what this console itself does. I was not super impressed with this console, just to let you know. But I do want to show it just as part of the overview, just to be complete with what the ship can actually do. Can use dual cannons. Yeah, that's okay. I'm generally not a cannon person, but if you are, you will be able to use this ship. All right, so it does have the destroyer package, which I already went through. All right, so there are the details on the ship. And yeah, and just real quick, what makes it so powerful? Like I said, it is a warship, so it has the 4-4 layout, but it has the maneuverability and seating of other destroyers. So it has that extra weapon slot compared to other destroyers, and that good console layout, good bridge officer layout, very flexible, and just works really, really well. All right, so as far as the gear, let's get into the gear here. I am running the Coalition Disruptors. You can see here I don't have perfect mods. I've got a damage 3 crit D. I do have a good mix of all crit Ds and damage. So decent mods, but not perfect for sure. But Coalition Disruptors, where do you get these? Well, I bought them off the exchange. These are lockbox weapons, and you can buy them off the exchange. They were somewhat recently changed to being bound to account, which is excellent, instead of bound to character. So if you do have these on one character, you can trade them to your alts. So yeah, get these. They are fairly pricey if you want the good mods, but not out of this world. You can buy one with non-perfect mods for pretty reasonable, a couple million in that range. So there you go, Coalition Disruptors. Why do you use these? Well, Coalition Disruptors are all the hotness right now, all the rage, because of their proc, which is the chance to debuff all enemies, 5% chance for a... Oh, sorry. Where is it? 2 self... No. I got so many procs on here. All the plasma procs. The temporal spec procs. There we go. To target, 2.5% chance, minus 20% disruptor resistance rating for 30 seconds, stacks up to 5 times. That is why people like the coalitions. As you're hitting the target, it is debuffing their resistance rating to all of your disruptor fire and everyone else's disruptor fire. So, and damage resistance debuffs are really excellent in this game. Just because they work on total damage, so it's really, really good. So that's why everyone loves those Coalition Disruptors. So if you're going for a beam array build, Coalition Disruptors are certainly one of the best. You can use any other energy type that you want, though, honestly. They all do quite well. It's just that at the high end, the Coalition disruptors will outperform slightly with that proc. Anti-protons are still, very, very good. You've still got, almost any of the energy types can be really good. They're within a few percentage points of each other. So, but if you are going for the absolute top, go for the Coalition disruptors, which are currently the best right now. I'd also recommend, just as a note here, if you are interested, you could also throw on the Terran Task Force disruptor, the Reputation version. You can only have one of these, but it is actually very, very good because of that scaling damage buff as the target's hull decreases. The single beam does perform extremely well, and with all of your other coalitions debuffing disruptor damage, it's a perfect fit with the Terran Task Force disruptor beam array. So once I get this thing gilded out and upgraded, I probably will throw it into the build, but it's not fully there yet, so I'm just sticking with the coalitions. All right, for my space set, I'm using the Iconian space set. All 4 pieces. Why do I use all 4 pieces? Because of the 4-piece set bonus. I used it several times in the ISA run. It is Radiant Subatomic Pulse. It is a group buff that gives you an awesome 33% all damage, 20% max hull, and 10% flight speed. So it's kind of a really good buff for 30 seconds for your whole team. It's like 33% all damage. That's like an attack pattern alpha for everyone. And it also gives you max hull for a little bit more tankiness and a little more speed. So it's excellent. Also, the 3-piece set from the Iconian is truly good, excellent. You've got your, this is also another full team buff for all allies within 10 kilometers. Basically, whenever you're firing energy weapons, you have a 5% chance to proc a plus 15% all damage, energy damage for 8 seconds. And it stacks up to 3 times. So not too bad at all. I mean, if you're putting down constant fire, you should be able to get this off or keep it up quite well. It should have a really good uptime for your whole team. So that is another really excellent thing about the Iconian set. And you've got your enhanced shield distribution. It gives you a little bit of a shield heal when you distribute shields. I don't distribute that shields that often because I run TAC team, but it's there. So there you go. That is why I run all 4 pieces, because of that Radiant Subatomic Pulse, which is just an excellent, excellent buff for the entire team. Just real quick, I'll mouse over all of these. You've got your deflector array. The individual pieces themselves are not bad at all for Iconian. Kind of the nice thing about all of the Iconian pieces is they have that hot restart ability, which actually works very well with this particular build when you're using override subsystem safeties. Because when you use override subsystem safeties, the bridge officer ability, the intel ability, it will, when it wears off, it will bring one of your subsystems offline for a short amount of time. But with your hot restart on the Iconian pieces, it will usually bring it right back online. So it synergizes well. So the Iconian set synergizes well with this particular build, with an intel build using override subsystem safeties. All right, so there's the deflector array. It's got pretty decent stats. You've got your shield, hull capacity. Shield power setting, a little bit of bonus there too. Kinetic damage, resistance rating, all pretty decent stats for a deflector. It doesn't have like exotic particle gen or anything like that. So that's kind of a downside. But it does have good survivability stats. Now this one, the impulse engines does give you +5 defense. It's not the best engines in the world, but when at 100% throttle, it does give you that +10 energy damage resistance rating, which is kind of cool because as a build using pedal to the metal, pretty similar to a beam score build, it's very similar. You are going to be at 100% throttle most of the time, so you get that little extra bonus there. And the warp core. Now the warp core is actually quite good. It's almost, it is missing the reduced energy cost on weapons that you get from the Spire warp core, but it's still good because it gives you the 4-piece set bonus and it gives you that hot restart. Let's see here. Where's hot restart? It does give you amp when you get it up to ultra rare quality. It does give you the amp bonus, so you will get that just like most other good warp cores. You can get the amp. And for anyone who's not aware, amp increases your damage. You can actually read it there. Plus 3.3% all damage with each subsystem that is over 75 power. which with this build, you should be able to have all of your subsystems over 75 power pretty much for the entire fight. But you can see there it does have the hot restart ability, automatically removes the weapon's disabled condition after 1 second. So it's very nice. So like if your OSS goes off and you get unlucky and it knocks your weapons offline after it wears off, boom, hot restart is right back up in 1 second. So very good. The shield also has a hot restart, which will hot restart your shields, which is also quite good. It is a resilient shield array, which is nice since it only has the 5% bleed through. It means that the capacity is a little bit lower, but that's okay. I like resilient shields in any case, just for that reduced bleed through. And it does reduce all energy damage to shields by 50%, so it is a pretty decent shield. So pretty decent space set all around, but mostly valued for its amazingly good set bonuses. Let's go into devices. We've got, of course, the Temporal Negotiator. You get this from the... shoot, where did you get this thing? I believe it was from the Delta Recruit event. My apologies if I'm getting that wrong, but I believe that is from the Delta Recruit event, which means it is unfortunately not available anymore, but it's a nice little thing just for reducing all of your bridge officer recharge times by 50%. Usually, you know, when I go into an ISA, I'll blow up my cooldowns on the first transformer, pop this, and then most of them should be up pretty fast, usually by the time you get to the second transformer. It depends on how fast of a run it is, but it's a nice little device. And I finally got my hands on a red matter capacitor. This was not available for a very, very long time, unless, I think it was it like the deluxe edition of the game or the collector's edition of the game. Originally, you could get a red matter capacitor. But thankfully, Cryptic had recently introduced the Phoenix lockbox, which is a new event, which is over now, unfortunately, so you can't get this anymore. But during that event, you were able to get some of those rare exclusive items from, you know, that were discontinued in the past, and red matter capacitor was one of them. If you didn't get one this time around, if you missed the Phoenix lockbox event, don't fret too much. I believe that this lockbox event will be coming back, maybe twice a year. At a minimum, it's going to come back once a year, but it might even be twice a year. We'll see if it comes back sometime around the summer event. But you will be able to get your hands on this again in the future, so don't fret too much. And then the good old subspace field modulator, which you get from a mission. It's just from an episode. It's one of the Davidian ones, I believe, and I'm totally forgetting the name of it right now. Sorry about that. But yes, you can get this from a mission replay in the Davidian arc.
We have reports of a true wave
skirmish
entering the neutral zone and picking a fight with the Klingons near the Donatus.
Maybe it wasn't the Davidian. Okay, you get this from skirmish. That's what I thought.
Fleet entering the neutral
there it is, subspace field modulator. It's just a nice little clicky to help you with good damage resistance rating. Unless you're fighting something that shoots proton, don't use it. But that's not too many enemy types. I'm not even recalling which enemy type uses proton damage. All right, so let's get into the consoles that I'm using. Now this is kind of the flex console slot. I put in the Delphic Terror generator in here just for a little bit of extra exotic damage on my feedback pulse, because I am running that. You saw that in the parse that feedback pulse did quite well, so I do like this console. It also gives 5% crit severity, not bad at all. But this is kind of a flex slot. What I'd really like to put in here is a what am I thinking of here? The EPS. The EPS console, which I'm forgetting the name of right now. The EPS console that is very, very expensive right now. Conductive RCS, haha, there it is. Yeah, conductive RCS with EPS is like over 100 million to get one of those things right now. I can't afford it, so that's what I think would probably be most optimal in this build. As a heavy, 8 beam array build, you are going to be hungry for that EPS to be flowing into your weapon system during the firing cycle. So I think that'd probably be the best thing here, but Delphic Terror Generator is certainly a good substitute. If you want the Delphic Terror Generator, you can pick these up pretty cheap off of the exchange. They were from the recent lockbox, so they are still quite available, pretty cheap. Very good console. Good to have anyway, especially if you ever want to do a very science exotic damage heavy build. This is an excellent console, so it's worthy to pick up anyway. I am also running the Timeline Stabilizer. You get this console from the Cryonic Siphon vessel, which was from the previous summer event, I want to say. Yep, the Cryonic Siphon vessel. So unfortunately, if you miss that, you won't be able to get to this console. But like I said, that Phoenix event may come around again, and you will have a very rare chance of getting this. Unfortunately, getting the ships from the Phoenix box is one of the very rare drops. It's like, in fact, one of, I think, the epic drop. So it's going to be hard to get in the future, but it will at least have a chance, if nothing else. So that is where you get it. Now, why would you slot this? Because it is one of the best universal consoles out there. I use this on a lot of builds now. It just, the clicky effect is so good. It's got a built-in 15% cooldown on Science Bridge Officer abilities, which is already good. But on top of that, the click ability is so good. I mean, it gives you so many things. Check all this out. You get a recharge buff to self, a plus firing rate buff to self, which is already excellent. The fire cycle haste is really good. It really increases your damage output. Fire and cycle haste is a really good buff, especially when gets you more firing out while you're under the effects of fire at will and all that good stuff. You've got your and then it reduces all of your recharge times pretty substantially. Because it does it every second, so it kind of lasts for, I'm actually not quite sure the duration, does it say? Let's check the duration on this thing real quick here. 10 seconds, okay. So yeah, so for 10 seconds, it's going to be reducing all the cooldowns and giving you that fire cycle haste, so it is really, really good. Yeah, really, really good universal console. Like I said, you get that from the Cryonic Siphon vessel. And yeah, that was the summer ship, so it is difficult to get if you don't have it yet. You'll have to wait for the next Phoenix event to even have a chance at it. The next one is the Chel Boalg Regenerative Integrity Field console. I threw this on here just because this ship needs some survivability. With the build I'm running, I am running, this is using attrition warfare, which I'll get into when I get into the spec, but the spec tree is I'm using. But it is using attrition warfare, which means I am going to be using attract fire or threatening stance, and which means I will be drawing a lot of aggro, and this is not the tankiest ship in the world, so this regenerative integrity field helps a lot with survivability. You saw I used it in the ISA to keep myself alive. So, and the way this console works, when you're putting out a ton of DPS like this ship does, this makes you almost invulnerable for the entire duration because you're draining so many hit points from the enemy. So yeah, let's run down this real quick. Yeah, just real quick, to get this console, you do have to, this is also another event ship console. This was from the Chel Boalg Samsar Cruiser, which was the previous anniversary event. And yep, so to get it from that ship, if you don't have it already, it's going to be difficult. Again, you're going to have to wait for that Phoenix Lockbox event to come around again, and you'll have a very rare chance to get this, to get that Chel Boalg Samsar out of that box. But at least you are able to get it. In the old days, before the Phoenix Lockbox event, there was no way to get this, which was unfortunate, because honestly, these two consoles, the Timeline Stabilizer and the Regenerative Integrity Field, are two of the best consoles in the game. They're universal. They fit into lots of builds. Yeah, and they just work well. And of course, the good old trusty Plasmonic Leech. These are actually very, very affordable now. No longer is it like the old days where you would have to spend 100 million EC to get one of these. No, they are now down to, 5 million or even below. I've seen them cheaper than that, depending on, the supply coming in. But yeah, Plasmonic Leech, very good, very good console for, getting all of your subsystem power levels up above 75 to get that amp bonus, and just to get the bonus from having high power. So I moused over here. The way this console works is that every time you shoot your weapons, your weapons hit the enemy, it will drain power from the enemy and give it to you. And you will see it takes 2.2 power from the enemy, and it gives 2.2 power to you, to all of your subsystems. It lasts 15 seconds. And what it doesn't mention here is that this stacks 8 times. So, and since the buffs, last for 15 seconds, it's very easy to keep this up permanently. As long as you're just laying down fire to almost anybody, scoring hits on anyone, you're going to be getting, 8 stacks of this pretty much permanently throughout the fight, which means you're going to be getting, 2.2, you're going to be getting, almost 20, not quite, 18 to 20. This does scale up with your drain, skill. So if you have a high drain skill, we'll scale it up a bit. But yeah, you're going to be getting like 18-ish power to all subsystems and one console. That's really, really good. Now, I do believe they did slightly nerf this console, just so you guys are aware. The way this console used to work is that each time you got one of these stacks, one of these 2.2 power stacks onto your ship, it would actually immediately put that power into your systems, almost acting like free EPS. I believe that was nerfed. Someone correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I believe they nerfed that part of this console. So it's still a very good console because it does, give you energy to all of your subsystems. It makes it very easy to keep them up near max. But it did remove that sort of cheap EPS that would put, pseudo EPS that would give you, which is all the more reason I think why conductive RCSs are so much even more expensive nowadays, is EPS is in demand right now. So, all right, so those are the consoles. You could, like I said, pick up the Leech right off the exchange. They are so cheap now thanks to the Infinity Lockbox. Yeah, definitely pick one up. Probably, if you're a new player, pick one of these up first thing. If you can get them, cheaply for only a couple million, it shouldn't take you that long to save up. And this console will help out almost any energy build, unless you're hardcore into torpedoes. Any energy build, even most like hybrid builds, like science builds, will still benefit from this because it also boosts your aux power. So there you go, Plasmonic Leech. All right, so in my science consoles, I am of course using the good old plasma generating weapon consoles. There are a couple different variants of these. I am using the signature amplifier ones, because, like I said, this is sort of an aggro build. I'm using attrition warfare and feedback pulse, which means I want to be hit by the enemy. So I do use the weapon signature amplifiers and I'm using them with exotic particle gens. You could probably also use drain on these if you're looking for to get a little more energy from your plasmonic leech, but I'm with EPG. So where do you get these? You get these from the embassy in your fleet. So if you're in a fleet, you're going to want to go to your Romulan embassy, beam down there, and there is a console. I believe it's on the command center floor. No, it's not. It's actually in the shuttle bay. You go to the shuttle bay, and you can go down there, and there's a console there where you can buy these. You will need a decent amount of fleet credits. I believe somewhere in the ballpark of 10,000 for the Mark 10s, which you can upgrade. I recommend just buying the Mark 10s because you can upgrade them very easily. So they're pretty easy to get from your embassy. Just make sure you're in the fleet and you save up some fleet credits, and you'll be able to get these. They do also cost some dilithium, not a huge amount either. I want to say a couple thousand to 4,000 maybe. But what makes these so good? Well, you saw in the parse that those plasma explosions did actually add up to be quite a bit of damage. So what these do is they add a plasma explosion proc to all of your weapons. And they also give you the exotic particle gen because I'm using the EPG modifier. And they also increase threat because I did get the amplifiers. You can get the nullifiers also if you're looking to reduce threat. Depending on your build, you can use those. But yes, and you stack up 3 of these. That means that all 3 of them will be, all of these will proc. I believe the procs are combined, so it rolls once, and if your proc goes off, all 3 of them will proc. But yeah, just keep firing all of your weapons and you'll get plenty of plasma explosions doing lots of good damage. It does also bypass shields, another benefit of the plasma explosions. So they're very potent. So stack up as many of these embassy consoles as you can into your science. And they do parse very well. Now, finally, tactical consoles. Nothing too special here. I am just using the standard vulnerability locators for disruptors because I'm using coalition disruptors. I'm using 4 of them here. You get these consoles from your fleet spire. They are, of course, better than just your regular tactical consoles because they also give you the crit chance. And they do give a little bit more on the disruptor damage side as well, but the crit chance is the big thing you want. And it does stack, so you get a nice bonus to your crit chance from running these. Yep, so yeah, get these from your fleet spire. These are more expensive. These are 50,000 fleet credits and 12,000 dilithium, I think, around there. So these are quite a bit more expensive. If you want to get all 5 of these, that's 250,000 fleet credits. That's quite a bit of grinding, but they are worth it. You're going to want to get the vulnerability locators at some point in time. All right, guys, so that is the gear part of the build. Let's keep moving on to the skills. Actually, while I'm still on this page, let me quickly go to, just so you can see my space stats. So what is the overall result here from this build? 7.5% crit chance is not right. Something is not being calculated in here. But I'm in space. It seems like it should. Oh, no. Haha. I was on my wrong character sheet. Ha. That was, of course, my ground build. All right, so yeah, let's go here and actually look at the stats. I don't know what I was thinking there. I've been doing so many ground builds lately. I was going to look at the ground build. All right, so my power transfer rate is at 200%, so 10 per second. Again, not the best. That is kind of why I would like to put in that, my dream console, which is a conductive RCS with EPS. But what do we get here? So hull is 61,000. Not too bad once all the buffs, space sets, and everything are accounted for. You get that nice hull there. That will even go up a little bit more once you activate your threatening stance because it gives you, when you take damage, you get your increased max hull by 5%. So, and it stacks up to 10 times. So it's pretty good. You do get quite a bit of tankiness out of that threatening stance. Anything else here? The shield capacity, 11,000. Again, not bad. Not the best in the world. Actually kind of low. 1.0 shield modifier. I've had a lot of ships out there with better than 1.0. So there is the shield modifier. The resistances we're looking at. And just forgive me. I'm not running anchored. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think I was. Good. Resistance again, also not the best in the world. Even if I go into full throttle here, your bonus defense does go up to 75% when you're at full throttle. But so that's what you're looking at as far as resistance is at full throttle. All right, so now crit chance 21%, crit severity 98%. That's what we're looking at there for the build. And turn rate of 23 degrees per second. So yeah, you can see it's quite maneuverable. I'm going to just quickly close out. You can see here, pretty decent turn rate. It's not bad at all. You know, this is not a, it's not a Fayette. It's not a Phantom, but it's still good. Good enough to get the job done, certainly with a beam array build, shooting a broadside. So certainly enough to keep you on target and keep all 4 of those beams going. And good for pedal to the metal. Yep, so there we go. Just real quick, I'm kind of curious the size of this ship. I haven't really compared it. Let's go fly over here. There's a Jupiter over here. Let's see how big we are compared to a Jupiter. Pretty, honestly, a decent-sized ship, I'm going to have to say. There's a nebula down there. So pretty decent-sized ship, right? There's like a Rhode Island. There's a pilot ship, definitely bigger than the pilot ships. And here is the visuals. There's an old Chel up here. So let's go ahead and take a look at the side by side of the Chel Boalg and the Chel Gret. Let me just pull up next to this guy up here. We'll take a look. So there we go. Here is the Chel Gret. Pretty similar in size, I have to say. Maybe a little bit longer. Yeah, a little bit, pretty similar, I have to say. Yep, just a little bit longer, but the old Chel Gret has a little bit more bulk in the center area. I think this is kind of more, looks like the center of mass is more towards the aft of the ship, where this one's right kind of in the middle. So there's a little size comparison. A little bit distracted there, but I was kind of curious the size. It is a decent sized ship, but certainly not huge like the Jupiter or like the Odyssey, but you know, about the size of the Nebula, pretty close to the Eternal down there. So there you go, there's size comparison. All right, so let's move on to the next part of the build. I will just quickly show you the skills that I'm using. As you probably saw in the run, I was using a probability manipulator. So I do run a pretty science-heavy build, mostly just to get that probability manipulator, which is so damn good. Yeah, probability manipulation is, yeah. Just to quickly show you, in case you're not aware, why you'd want to run a heavy science build, even on a tactical DPS ship like this, is because of how good probability manipulation is. It's basically a 30-second buff that you can get on yourself that increases your gives you basically a all damage resistance rating debuff for everything you're hitting. So it's kind of like a free attack pattern beta, I want to say. Not quite as good as attack pattern beta, but it's up for that full 30 seconds, so that's really good. It gives you that on crits, so you're going to be getting lots of crits. That will stack up real fast, up to 5 stacks. So with the 5 stacks, that's pretty close to attack pattern beta, honestly. It also gives you the probability shell, gives you the bonus healing, but the other thing is it sets your critical chance to 50%. So you saw my critical chances are around the 20s. So even in a high crit ship, that gets you right up to 50% right away for 30 seconds. That's really, really good. Especially for new players, I highly recommend probability manipulation, because when you're a new player, you don't have all the crit consoles and everything. When you pop this for 30 seconds, you are going to have a 50% crit chance, even without all of the good consoles. And you will see, during that 30 seconds, you'll become a wrecking machine, even on a low-end build. So that is why I do love the probability manipulation. There is some merit to having the tactical focused frenzy ability, but the problem with that one is it's just for a single target. It does buff your whole team's damage on that target, but it is only a single target. Whereas, in most runs, there's not like that big single target that you're going to get the use out of. Whereas with probability manipulation, you have that guaranteed 30 seconds of being a wrecking machine. So that is why I went with the heavy science build, with a little bit of a smattering of tactical and engineering. Yep, so you can just see where I threw my points, just to get a little bit of most value for your points. You get is, in the first or second rank, getting the impulse expertise for, coming out of, for increasing your turn rate and everything. You've got your, a little bit of extra EPS, hull, and of course, power to your subsystems, all good stuff. So you can see what I've got there. Now, my tactical part, I'm actually thinking of respeccing, because I actually used to put 3 points into tactical readiness here. But now that I'm running an attrition warfare build, this is not needed at all. These points I'd be much better be spent if I put them into hull pen. I would definitely probably take these out, put them into hull pen, maybe some into more improved crits, or maybe even one into shield weakening. That's what I would recommend for your build. I wouldn't do what I put here, especially because I had this build before I started running attrition warfare, and I haven't respecced since then. So there is the space build. Now, I've been talking about attrition warfare a lot, and it is key to this build. And in case you're wondering what that is, what is attrition warfare? Well, you get it from the strategist specification, or specialization, sorry. This is this newer secondary specialization for space. It is only 15-point specialization, but attrition warfare is right down here. And Basically what this does is while you're in threatening stance, which means, yep, you're going to have to build around that. You're going to have to turn threatening stance on to be able to get this. And with that comes, the fact that you're going to be taking a lot of damage and you're going to be taking the hits, so you need to be a little bit tanky. This build, as I'm showing, is just barely tanky enough, but you could certainly, build it to be a little more tanky even still, because you will be drawing the aggro. Now, you have to do all this to take advantage of attrition warfare. So why would you do that? Well, let's take a look. Attrition warfare. Well, in threatening stance, once every 20 seconds, bridge officer and captain hull heals reduce bridge officer recharge time by 30%. That's really, really freaking good. That means all you do is have to heal yourself while attrition warfare is on. So you just turn threatening stance on, and every time you heal yourself within that 20-second window, as 20-second cooldown, you are reducing all bridge officer recharge times by 30%. That is a lot. That's a ton. So, I was using this with hazard emitters, will proc it. I personally recommend, if you want to get the most procs out of this, you use aux to Sif, which is aux to structural integrity. Very good engineering build. And that is the one thing, kind of the downside with the bridge officer seating on the ship, is the lack of engineering slots. If I had just one more engineering slot, I could throw that aux to Sif in there. That'd be perfect. But alas, I was only running hazard emitters. So yeah, but you could see when I... let me see if I can give a little bit of a demo here. Let's say I pop... yeah, what do I want to pop? Anything. Oh, I can't turn threatening stance on, darn it. So I won't be able to demo it. But basically, when you have threatening stance on, you pop all of your abilities, and then you do a self-heal. Then, as soon as that self-heal triggers, you'll see, all of your abilities, the cooldown, go down by 30%, boom, right away, as soon as you trigger that hull heal. It's really good. It will bring a lot of the abilities right down to their global cooldown, or their shared cooldown, I guess is the better word for it. So just using attrition warfare on its own can often get a lot of abilities right to the global cooldown without having to invest in a lot of other cooldown reductions. That is why attrition warfare is so good. And since you're running attrition warfare, I do also like to run feedback pulse on this build. You're drawing so much aggro, might as well make the best of it with a feedback pulse, which also parses quite well. So that is the strategist spec. That is kind of the key thing there. But I do invest completely into strategist for my secondary. And for the primary, of course, is the temporal operative. Temporal operative is another fantastic specialization. Intel is still really good, and I do miss Intel fleet, but temporal operative is just so good also for ground. It's really good because of the extra kit performance, but it's also really good for space, for the extra exotic particle gen. There's so many good things about this spec. But on top of everything that's great about it, you also get this ability right here, Entropic Rider. And if you when I looked at the parse, you saw how much damage Entropic Rider does. It does substantial damage, which kind of makes up for with Intel spec, you have the flanking. This kind of makes up for it, honestly. Entropic Rider, I think, parses almost as well as flanking, and then you don't have to worry about getting behind the enemy. So Entropic Rider is one of the key things of the temporal spec. The other nice thing is the causal glitch, or no. Yes, is also the continuity ability, which is kind of like a poor man's invulnerability trait, but it works quite well. It might have procced once during the run that I did in ISA. I don't recall. There was one time I saw my hull go really, really low, but you can see what it does. When your hull is reduced below 10%, it will trigger onto self. It does have a slightly different trigger if you have threatening stance on. You don't teleport away if you have threatening stance on, but it does give you everything else. It gives you the big heal and the shield regen. Now, it says it gives you an adjustment period debuff afterwards, but if you spec all the way down here, you can get rid of that. So this is another really nice thing about the Temporal Operative spec. It gives you that, yes, you do lose out on the Intel fleet, but the Temporal Operative continuity is still very good. Again, helps the survivability on the ship because of how I'm building for attrition warfare. You are taking the aggro, you do have that feedback pulse going, you need to be able to survive it. And this saved me countless times. Because I don't have invincibility on this tune. I do have it on my Romulan, but... So there you go. Those are the specializations. Now let's take a look at traits. I'll go through them quickly here just so you can see what I've got. Fleet Coordinator. This is a trait that everyone can get. It is excellent. It gives you +2 all damage per team member, including yourself. So very good. Coalition Starship Tactics. This is kind of a flex one. I put this in here because it's kind of cool because it does give you the extra... defense and flight speed is kind of handy for tactical teammates. In all honesty, I'm very, very much considering swapping this out for either ablative hull or fluidic cocoon. Either of those traits. Those traits are coming down in price. They're like around 8 million, I believe. Maybe when the next Infinity Lockbox events come out, they'll drop down a little bit and I'll purchase one. I think either of those traits would go much better here, but I do like this just for the little sort of mix of, the defense buff that it gives. Again, defense buff. You don't necessarily want people to miss, but you are taking a lot of damage even, because you are going to be at full throttle with this build, but you still need to at least have them miss a few times so you don't get blown up. I do run Operative on here just for the extra crit chance. 2% crit severity is not much. Beam Training is a very good trait. Again, one of the standard ones you get. Also, Operative is one of the standard ones that you can get. Inspirational Leader. This is another very, very good trait that used to be expensive. This is a lockbox trait that you can get off the exchange. And it is much more affordable nowadays. Again, right, it's about in the 8 million range, I believe, right around where Ablative Shell and Fluidic Cocoon are. But this is such a good space trait. I definitely recommend this on pretty much every build. But basically, anytime you are using, like almost any starship skill. It says most starship skills. It actually lists them down there. It's like almost any bridge officer ability will trigger this. And so it has a chance to, a 10% chance to activate on any bridge officer ability. Will grant +10 to most starship skills for 15 seconds and stacks 3 times. So basically you're getting this a bonus to all of your skills, your weapon crit skill, your beam skill, like everything, for 15 seconds, and it stacks 3 times. And you're going to be using a lot of bridge officer abilities. So this is up as really good uptime, really good buff, one of the best single traits out there. I'm also running self-modulating fire. Again, this is maybe on the swap out list. It is a very good trait. I mean, it does give you an outgoing critical hits. You get a 50% shield pen, which is actually good, but it can only trigger once every 45 seconds. This is really, really good for torps. I do use it on a beam build, but I think on a beam build it's not quite as good. But yeah, self-modulating fighter, you can get this one. Do you get this one off the exchange? Yes. I believe you do get this one off the exchange. It is a lockbox trait. This other one here that I was thinking of is actually not off the exchange. You get this one from a mission. Point blank shot. Very nice little trait that scales up your damage based on how close you are to the target. So as you are flying around, you want to stay in close to the target. But as long as you are within 6 kilometers, as long as you're within 6 kilometers, you're getting a buff. And if you're up to 2 kilometers, you are getting up to a 10% energy weapon damage bonus. So, yeah, a nice little trait there. You want to be close to the target anyway, just because your weapon damage scales up as you do, but rather it doesn't drop off as much based on range. So it is good to stay up close to your target anyway. So why not also use this trait? Now, this trait, like I said, you do get from a mission. And I'm forgetting the mission name. Apologize for a second while I go try to find it. I believe it is from the episode. It's in. I want to say how it's in the Iconian arc. Is it House Peg?
The Empire requires your assistance.
Yes, haha, point blank shot. So yep, you're going to want to get up to the Iconian War story arc, run House Peg, and you'll be able to get this trait. Nice little trait, especially if you're, for a newer player, if you don't have all of the lockbox traits off the exchange, a good one to get. I do actually like this one. I am running Advanced Rapid Support. This is one that you get from the temporal character. Yes, from the temporal character, and it. So if you made a temporal agent, you were able to get this advanced rapid support trait. This does give you, it basically reduces the cooldown on your career-specific fleet. So if you're an engineer, it will reduce your engineering fleet, and if you're tactical, it will reduce the recharge time on your tactical fleet. It reduces it quite a bit. And so I do like to run it. It does give me better uptime, especially when solo. It gives you a lot better uptime on your fleet ability. Let me just double check. Is there anything special? Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything special about getting this trait. Was this it? No, that's the critical systems trait. Well, shoot. I'm not remembering how you actually get this trait. Let me look it up here while I'm going to keep going here. Yeah, the wiki is not this training the game character trait. But I want to say this is from the Agents of Yesterday. Personal space trait, rapid support is account-wide unlock. Yeah, so it's from the Agents of Yesterday event, and it is an account-wide unlock. There's a lot of other things you could run in this place. Like I said, Fluidic Cocoon, Ablative Shell, those are all good traits. But yes, I still, even on a non-focused exotic damage build, I still like Particle Manipulator. Particle Manipulator is a trait that gives a crit chance and crit severity buff to all of your exotic damage abilities based on your exotic particle gen skill. It scales with the exotic particle gen skill, which makes it very, very good. Like I said, I'm running Feedback Pulse on here, so it does help quite a bit. To get this one is, I do remember how to get. This one you do get from your R&D. All you have to do is get your Science R&D school up to rank 15. Right here. Your Science school up to rank 15, and you will unlock that trait. In fact, I think it's probably the best trait you get out of all of the R&D schools, so I'd recommend, if you are a new player, to get to your Science school up first. Just all you have to do is, when you log in each day, do this. If you go to your Science school, go down here at the bottom and run this research project. You could do it in 3 slots per day, up to a max of 3. You can only do up to 3 of that project in one school per day. But that's how you do it. Get yourself that Particle Manipulator trait. It is very good for quite a lot of builds, and if you're running an exotic damage build, it is an absolute necessity. So there you go. As far as Starship traits, I am running Emergency Weapon Cycle, of course, one of the best traits in the game for that weapon power cost reduction and firing cycle haste while you have emergency power to weapons active. With this build, emergency power to weapons will be active pretty much 100% of the time. So this trait will be active pretty much 100% of the time, and it is a very, very good trait. Energy, weapons firing cycle haste is excellent. Weapon power cost reduction, excellent. I pretty much consider this a must-have on almost any energy-based build. Very, very good. For this one, you get this trait from the Arbiter, which is the fleet, or you don't have to get the fleet version, but it is the tier 6 battle cruisers, which I do have unlocked, but you get it from the faction cruiser, faction battle cruisers. There we go. You're going to want to get this cross-faction battle cruiser bundle if you want it on all of your characters, or you could just get the Arbiter right there. Romulans get it off the Mogai, and Klingons get it off the Kurak. Now for this trait, I do still run all hands on deck. This trait is becoming a little bit less necessary, but the reason why I still run all hands on deck is because it also buffs captain abilities. Almost everything like attrition warfare and all the most cooldown reductions only work on bridge officer abilities. This is one of the few ones that work on captain abilities, so I do still run this. But basically all hands on deck gives you every time you activate a tactical or command bridge officer ability, and in this build you're going to be using a lot of tactical abilities, all of your beamfire at wills and so on. It will give you a recharge time reduction on all science and captain abilities. So that's very good. It can only recur once every few seconds, but still, very, very good trait for that, particularly for that captain cooldown reduction. You get this trait off of the command battle cruisers, the tactical variant. So again, if you go to tier 6, go to command battle cruisers, and the one you're going to want is the tactical variant, this one here on the right. What is it, the Presidio, I believe? Yeah, so you're going to want that ship, and that will give you the all hands on deck trait. All right, next up is improved feedback pulse. This one is an excellent trait as well. Since I am running feedback pulse on this build, this is kind of an aggro build. Like I said, it does. It's kind of an interesting build. I mean, it runs the attrition warfare. It runs high aggro because you want things firing at you. Because you're going to be running threat and stance anyway, so you might as well build it to take advantage of the fact you're going to be getting shot at. And improved feedback pulse does a very good job of that. Improved feedback pulse gives you crit chance and crit severity, and it also increases the damage that feedback pulse does. And you saw in the parse how good feedback pulse does in fact do on this build. With aggro, with everyone shooting at you, it does put out a lot of damage. And on top of that, it's giving you crit severity and crit chance on top of it, so very good. You get improved feedback pulse again from the Crenum Science Vessel. That hardship to obtain. That is where you also got that console that I mentioned. So you get the console, time stabilization console, and the improved feedback pulse trait from that ship. Very desirable ship. Superior pedal to the metal. Pedal to the metal you get from... All you have to do for that one is to max out your pilot specialization. You don't actually have to use the pilot specialization, but once you put enough points in, it will unlock the trait. I would definitely recommend going all the way to 30, so you unlock the improved version of the trait. And since I'm a temporal officer, I do have the actual superior version of the trait, because I unlocked, it's one of the temporal agent rewards, is to upgrade it from advanced to superior, which takes it all the way up to 3% all damage buff. If you don't have the temporal agent achievement, it's just a 2% all damage bonus, but it does stack up to at full throttle, and it goes up to 30% max. If you have the advanced version, it goes up to 20% max. But think about it. I mean, with this superior version, 30%, even the advanced version is well worth running. But with this version, that's 30% all damage all the time when you're at full throttle. That's really good. I mean, that's almost like, again, like a free attack pattern alpha. Well, I guess attack pattern alpha is close to 50%, but it's a pretty solid damage buff that you can have all the time. All you have to do is stay at full throttle. which honestly for this ship works quite well because this is going to be, it does turn fast enough to, you know, to be able to circle around your ships to maintain that full throttle. With the beam ray build, it's easy to keep the broadside going, and with the aggro you're going to be getting, staying at full throttle gives you that defense you need to stay alive. With the amount of aggro the ship was getting, you saw I was still taking plenty of hits even while I was at full throttle, so that's why you'd want that pedal to the metal. I think it really makes the build work very well. And then finally here in the last slot, I am using the trait from this ship, from the Chel Boalg. This is Cryonic Siphon. This gives you, I already kind of described it originally, basically it's a damage resistance debuff when you use Energy Siphon. So you get it from this ship here. Just real quick, I'll just quickly run through the space reputation traits. You of course get all of these from their respective reputations. You just need to grind out your reputations to get these up, but definitely get precision from the Romulan. That's 4% crit out of the box. You want to get that right away, even as a new player. From the Dyson reputation, you get your advanced targeting systems, which gives you 16% crit severity. Again, just a solid damage boost across the board. You're going to want your enhanced armor pen. I believe this is from Delta reputation, but it gives you a 5% armor pen. And then I do like to run both of the Nukara traits. You get these from the Nukara reputation, and you get auxiliary power configuration offensive and defensive. And these basically, like the offensive one, scales your all damage based on your aux power level. That's why I keep my aux power level high, and that's also why, you know, part of the reason why Plasmodic Leech is so good, because it helps keep your aux power high, it keeps it capped out, and this scales up really, really well. So it's an all damage. It is a Cat 2 bonus, so you get all damage. And accuracy is nothing to write home about. It's the all damage is what you want. So there you go. The defensive is also very good. Since I'm also running high auxiliary power, might as well also get the defensive one, which this ship does need. It does give you a very solid bonus to your kinetic and all energy damage resistance rating, to your max hull hit points, and to your shield capacity. One of the best survival traits, in my opinion, for reputation. And I don't think there's really a fifth trait there that you really is worth the damage. Like the rest of the damage ones are pretty much a minor bonus. I mean, you could run like the one that gives you the self-heal, hull heals with. This one's okay. I still think the Nukara one is probably the best for defense. And for my active reputation traits, I did make use of all of these during the mission. I do like them. These are just pretty much all the space ones. You've got your quantum singularity manipulation. Basically, it's really nice because it cloaks your ship for 5 seconds, and you can still fire and do everything while you're cloaked. It's actually really nice. It gives you extra science stats as well if you're doing an exotic build. You've got your biomolecular shield generator. This is also very, very good. Gives you that big green bubble that reduces your incoming damage and gives you a lot of shield regeneration while you're in it. You've got your sensor interference platform. This one is just kind of goes counter to the build, honestly, because this build you do want aggro, but you do want to drop this on occasion because it will taunt things that are attacking you, and it will, if you're gonna die, it's better to drop this than it would be to die. So it does have its use. It does actually do a pretty decent job of attracting enemies onto it. It will absorb a few hits before it blows up. It does okay. And then finally, the anti-time entanglement singularity. This is actually a really good ability. Since I am running a pretty decent amount of exotic particle gen on this build, it's not a pure science build, but it is worth it. This does scale up quite well, and it actually parsed okay. It was right up there with drain infection, so it did a good job just for one cast. So it's worth it when you're trying to take out that one big target in the mission. Does a really good on the crystalline entity as well if you're running that. All right, so those are the traits. Let's go over the bridge officer stations really quick. This is pretty key to the build as well. As I mentioned, the Chel Boalg, it does have a really, really good bridge officer layout. You've got a pretty decent amount of science capability here. So you've got your Lieutenant Commander Universal. You've got, oh, this is actually, yeah, you've got your Ensign Universal. I thought this wasn't an Ensign Tactical. Okay, but it is an Ensign Universal. I missed that too. So yeah, very flexible. We got 2 Universal stations there. But no, I forgot this was an Ensign Universal. I'd almost be tempted to change this over to a Engineer to be able to get Ox to Sif. But for now, this is what I'm running. Yep. So that is the. Then you've got your Commander Tactical. You've got your Lieutenant Engineering and your Intel/Science Lieutenant Commander. Very flexible bridge officer layout. You can see the abilities I'm using here, and the two. I'm using the Ensign as a tactical, just so I can run TAC Team in there and Chemocyte Lace Weaponry. I am running Attack Pattern Beta, Beamfire at Will 3, and Attack Pattern Omega. And the nice thing about this build is 5 slots is plenty tactical, and thanks to Attrition Warfare, the cooldowns on all of these, you don't need to run duplicates of any of these. The cooldown is going to be, right to the global cooldown, shared cooldown anyway, so that's excellent. It works really well with the build. You only need those 5 slots and you're all set. In the Engineering, I am running Emergency Power to Shields and Emergency Power to Weapons. I do like having both of those up. I've run Drake builds for so long, I'd like to have 2 Emergency Power 2 abilities running in there. And, with Attrition Warfare and a couple of Damage Control Engineers, you can keep these up permanently easily, and that synergizes well with the build because of the traits I'm running, because of emergency weapon cycling. You want to keep up that emergency power to weapons all the time. Now for the Lieutenant Commander Universal, I did decide to run Science here. That's because the Science seat is actually also combined with the Intel. And of course, if you're running Intel, you want to run Override Subsystem Safeties, right? That's like one of the most powerful Intel abilities, and it's part of what makes this ship so powerful. For anyone who's not aware, Override Subsystem Safeties will basically, it takes all of the cap of all of your subsystems and makes it, it gives you basically 50 max to all of your current power levels and max power levels. So that just hugely buffs your weapon damage because it puts the cap up, 50 higher. So basically, you're going to be capping out at 175. So you're going to have a major, huge buff to your damage while Override Subsystem Safeties is up. It's just, it's so good. I mean, if I just pop it right here, you see, look, all the subsystems, like, they freaking cap out like crazy. My weapon's power, even without Plasmatic Leech, is already up in the 150s. With Plasmatic Leech, it's going to be capped out all the way. It brings your Ox power up. It brings everything up. It's such a powerful ability. The only downside is that, yes, when it wears off, it does take offline one of your... See, my shield just went offline. But there you go. Thanks to the Iconian shields, it popped right back online very quickly. So it works really well with the Iconian set, and the Override Subsystem Safeties work very well together. I do run 2 copies of it here because it does have a very long cooldown, and this is one ability that I'm just not able to get anywhere near the global cooldown. You can see this one's still on like 40 seconds of cooldown, while the other one is now coming off. And so then you can use the second version here, the rank 2, the Tenant version. So that way you can cycle them back and forth and keep it up very, have a much better uptime. But so using both of those slots for Intel abilities, that means I'm only left with 1 Science slot, which means I really do have to use the last Lieutenant Commander Universal as a Science. Which works okay, because then you can put in your Energy Siphon, which will take advantage of this ship's trait if you do want to run that. Honestly, the trait, well, okay, I think there are some better traits out there, and so you could probably get away without the Energy Siphon and just put something else in there, like a Destabilizing Resonance Beam, or maybe you could move the Feedback Pulse down to this and then put in the Lieutenant Commander slot, you could put Gravity Well. There's a lot of options here, which is why I like it. This kind of a sciencey flavor to this ship. I like that a lot. But then, of course, the Feedback Pulse, also running Hazard Emitters and Science Team to fill it out. It's Hazard Emitters, which is what I'm using to trigger the Attrition Warfare. Again, you could run a Engineer here in the Ensign, move your Emergency Power to Weapons to the rank 1, and then here in rank 2 use Ox to Sif. That would give you a lot more procs on your Octasiv is just great. I love this power. It gives you that all damage resistance rating. It gives you the hit points. It's a super short cooldown. And it works really good with attrition warfare. So that is definitely an alternative you could do. Put an engineer into the slot here. And you could go with that way. The only downside of that is you would lose out on one superior Romulan operative trait, because in both of these tactical seats I am running Romulans in there. And for any Federation characters out there, if you don't know, once you get your Romulan embassy up to rank 2 at least to get the blue ones, you can go to your Romulan embassy and you can actually hire Romulan bridge officers. And the Romulan tactical male blue quality bridge officer that you can get from the embassy has the superior Romulan operative trait, which I can show you real quick here. Where are you? Here it is. Gives you 2% crit chance, 5% crit severity, and then, well, you can't cloak on this ship, so that's not a big deal. But that's extra crit chance and crit severity, and it stacks for every Romulan you have. So you could, so it works well. You've got 2 of them on here, so that's giving you 2 SROs. For the engineering slots, I am actually running my Nausicaan. If you want to get a Nausicaan as a Federation character, you do need to get your diplomacy up to max rank. So if you're doing your diplomacy duty officer missions, you are going to want to get diplomatic up to rank 4, and then you go on to Earth Space Dock and talk to the guy next to Admiral Quinn, and I think it's, I'm not sure who you talk to there. It's the ambassador guy there. You talk to him. You can get a choice of a bridge officer from the opposite faction, and I would highly recommend, if you do, choose a Nausicaan, because they have the pirate trait. And I also recommend you do it for your engineer. Where is my Nausicaan? Here it is, because they do have the pirate trait, which is a 1.5% Cat 2 bonus to all damage. And as far as I know, there's no other engineer bridge officer available to Starfleet characters that has pirate. So I recommend getting it there. You can get Mr. Potato Head on the science side. So I wouldn't recommend getting a Nausicaan science person, but a Nausicaan engineer is still quite valuable. So I put them here in the engineering slot. Now for the science slot, I put this is actually a Crenum, which you get from the research lab from your fleet. You can get a Crenum bridge officer, which is right here. Crenum bridge officers do get the little power recharge time for science bridge officer abilities, which I wanted to get to kind of maximize the recharge time on my hazard emitters, to keep that going as fast as possible, to get as many of my attrition warfare procs as possible. So that is what I'm running there. Again, you can get the Crenum officers. They are very expensive. They're 160,000 fleet credits, but you can get them from your research lab from your fleet. And finally here I have Mr. Potato Head, which is of course the hierarchy intel officer and science intel officer. He does come also with the pirate trait, which is very good. He also gets efficient, so he's a really good bridge officer available to Starfleet officers. To get this guy, you need to go into the Delta Quadrant episode. You get it from... Is it Better with Friends? It's one of these... alliances,
The data
maybe?
from your mission against the Vaadwaur shows they're a bigger
My goodness, I don't remember. It's one of these later missions in the Delta Quadrant story arc where you get this guy. Yeah, I don't even know if it's one of the replayable ones. With friends like these, Better with Friends. They've got all the Kobali ones in here too. It might have been with friends like these. So yeah, but you get him from one of the later missions here in the Delta Quadrant story arc. And I definitely highly recommend him as a science officer on the Federation side. Of course, on the Romulan side, you can get SROs in all of your bridge officer slots. On the Klingon side, you can get Pirate already from Nausicaans. But for Federation side, this hierarchy guy is really, really good. All right. Finally, let's take a look at the last part of the build here, which is, of course, the duty officers. Ooh. There's an Anorax down here. I'm jealous. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the duty officers. I will just quickly show my space duty officers that I'm using. I'm using Agent Nerul. He does give a nice little bit of self-healing when you have attack pattern beta running, which I am running on this build. So a nice little bit of self-healing there. This guy you get from the Delta Operations pack. That's the only way to get him, I believe. That's the only way. I don't know if there's anyone out there who's similar abilities to him, but so that is, I do like to run him for the extra little bit of survivability. I am running a Con Officer, a purple Con Officer for the reduction on tactical team. Not too sure how necessary this guy is, again, with the attrition warfare build. I have to double check the cooldown on my TAC team to see if I actually really need this guy or not. I can probably swap him out. I am also running 2 damage control engineers. This is kind of a leftovers from my old Drake build. Probably could be swapped out as well. Although they do help in just to make sure your 2 emergency power abilities are up permanently, because each time you use an emergency power ability, they provide a reduction. They have a chance to provide a reduction in emergency power abilities. So when you're running 2 emergency powered abilities like this, each time one of them triggers, you have a 30% chance to reduce the recharge time by 30%. With 2 of them, you've got 2 chances each time one of these triggers. With 3 of them, it's pretty much guaranteed that you're going to have 2 of your emergency powered abilities up permanently. But I am only running 2 of them here, but that along with the attrition warfare is pretty much enough to guarantee that they are up 100% of the time. I am also running a warp core engineer for the 20% chance to provide all 25% power to all when you use any emergency power ability. So again, that works really well with this build because I'm running 2 emergency power abilities. They're up pretty much permanently. And the way it works is you should get a decent amount of procs of this, which is plus 25 to power to all power levels. I mean, with this build, you're not going to have any problem with power levels, that's for sure. Everything is going to be capped out, much of the time, which is really helpful for keeping all of your power levels high, including the aux, which does help scale, your exotic damage abilities here. And I am also running the Exocomp. And the reason why I'm running this guy now is because finally I got my whole hands on the red matter capacitor, which this guy does proc off of. So he does give you those nice little buffs whenever you use a battery ability, and red matter capacitor does do that. So I do like running this guy now, and he is a maintenance engineer. So there you go, Exocomp. You can actually get maintenance engineer with this ability. I think there might be another way to get it, but the Exocomp you actually get from the. There is a event that comes around every now and then, which is what is it? It's that one you do in Starfleet Academy. It's like the duty officer recruiting event. Comes around a couple times a year, and basically there's this little mini game you can play in Starfleet Academy. And there's while that event is running, you can go talk to one of the NPCs down there, and they will give you the free Exocomp. So if you don't have one, don't worry. When next time that. What is it? The duty officer recruitment event? I'm forgetting the name of it, but when that comes around, you will be able to get your hands on it. All right, so that was the build in detail. Hopefully that was helpful. Good information there. Or hopefully you found that to be helpful. And you will be able to, that is the full in-depth build. I mean, if you saw this build performed in ISA, so you know what it is capable of when it is running well. So there you go. That is the build. Now, let's... I did promise to take a look at the ship visuals, so let's go ahead and do that next. Let's head down to Earth Space Dock and take a look at the visuals. And I also promised an Argala run because I wanted to show off some of the, the Breen console abilities. which I didn't really show off in the ISA run. Not really the best format for doing that, honestly, just because so much going on there, you probably wouldn't be able to see it anyway. So let's head over, let's head down here to the ship Tailor first, take a look at what we've got. Now, I did show you, ooh, nice rubber band there. Oh man, I'm rubber banding all over the place. What's going on? I did show the Iconian visuals out in space. Let's go ahead and turn off the Iconian visuals for now. I think the Iconians look great on this, but I just don't want to show this what the ship looks like on its own. All right, and here it is. This is the default look. It's just a really, really good looking ship. But of course you can see the default look, it does have the sort of green impulse engines and nacelles. Lots of green lighting and a very dark black shiny metallic look going on. It looks excellent in the default. Nothing wrong with it. I do like how the Iconian one changes all of the engines kind of to that yellowish, reddish yellow look and heads those little red highlights all over the place. So I do love the Iconian look on this thing. It does have another material. This is the upgrade material. This is the standard Breen material. Yeah, pretty much looks like your standard Breen ship, but I do like that upgrade. Just that metallic look of the upgrade looks so much better. Man, that looks so good. You do get a couple different window types. You've got your window type 1, 2, kind of the more long yellow windows, and then type 3 is kind of with the little tiny small yellowish windows. The 1-1s are kind of vertical lines, which I think look actually really good, so I did like the type 1. Now, there is something you can do here. So you can, like I said, you can use the old Chel Boalg skin on this ship if you want. So there you go. There is the old Chel Boalg. Still a pretty cool looking ship. And of course, if you are a fan of cannon ships, this is the cannon ship from DS9. So a lot of people do like the cannon ships. It does look really good. I do like the, I do think they did a good job with the Chel Boalg to make it look close to cannon. My understanding is they did actually base this off some of the concept art for Breen ships. So it's about as close to canon as you can get, and it still looks really, really good. But yep, but you can still use the Chel Boalg skin on this ship with no problem. And you do have your assortment of patterns that you can go with if you'd like to change it up. Add, apply a pattern to here. All right, so there are the ship visuals. Very good looking ship, and like I said, it works excellent with the Iconian. In fact, I like it with the Iconian so much, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back on here. Yep, I can't complain about the visuals as well. In fact, I mean, this is one of those rare ships. I mean, the visuals are great, the performance is great. There's just so many good things about this ship. And yeah, so I have to say, even with the winter, grinding out the winter event, doing the race every day, yeah, it drags on after 25 days, but what can I say? It's worth it. This ship was well worth the effort. So yeah, just real quick here, I did say I do want to take this into an Argala run and show you all of the cool Breen console abilities. And heck, why not? Since I have all of the Breen ships, I'll go ahead and put the full 4-piece console on here. Yeah, this is the old one. This is from the Raider. This one was from the Sartheln. Yeah, this one's from the Sartheln. Let's put that on. And this one was from the Resurreth Dreadnought. Not super impressed with that console. I did actually like the Sartheln console. Was pretty decent with the gives it a nice defensive buff, and the plus 5% exact damage is always a nice little addition there. Also, the sensor disruption field from the Raider, kind of meh. Doesn't have any passive abilities. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I'm going to predict that next year, I'm guessing we're getting the Tier 6 version of the Breen Raider. This is the last one that, you know, is not Tier 6 yet. It's a Breen ship. The winter events are always Breen ships. I'm guessing that's what it's going to be, and I bet we'll see an upgrade to this console here for next year. Don't quote me on it, but I would say that's a pretty fair guess based on the history here. All right, so I got all 4 of these in here. So we'll go ahead and give this a try. Of course, let's just quickly take a look at the console that comes with this ship, which is the Chel Boalg. Here's what you get. It is a Breen Energy Dissipator, the enhanced version, but it also has some passives. It gives you a 1% crit chance, passive, and a 25% drain expertise. So this would be good on drain builds. Obviously, Breens are all into the energy drain. So you could go all out with like Polarons and do a full, you know, with Energy Siphon, Tychon's Rift. You could do for a whole, you know, a whole drain build on here, and that would work well. I think this 4-piece console set honestly is not good enough where I would say I'd recommend this on any ship outside of like a full drain build. And even then, you might get away with just like 3 of them. But yeah, so there is the. Let's just real quick see what the improved dissipator does here. So it's a 90-degree targeting arc. It is a destructible projectile. Creates 1 energy dissipator blast, a level 1 energy dissipator blast. So it does take away -10 all power from their all power settings for 15 seconds. -2 additional decreased all power settings per second for 15 seconds. Cool. 40% chance to disable weapon, shield, engine, or exhaust or aux systems for 10 seconds. Okay. So this would be pretty good on a drain build. And plus it gives you the drain expertise. So, yep, it'd be good on a drain build. All right, so let's go ahead and head over to Argala and take a look at these in action. Yeah, let's go ahead and transwarp over to the Delta Quadrant. Man, so what do you guys think? I mean, this ship is amazing. I've never gotten 140k DPS, but I mean, this put it right up there with, you know, I mean, from my standpoint, this puts it right up there with some of the top ships. I mean, maybe the Cryonic Warship is a little bit better, but I think this is right up there with the Nandi, with the Cryonic, with the Scimitar. This is really, really a good ship. Should I put this on advanced? Let's go ahead and put it on advanced just because I don't want everything to be instantly vaporized. To actually give a demo of how this actually works. Yep, and I of course am still running the trait from the ship, and I am still running the Energy Siphon to proc that trait. So for these first 2 guys, I'll just take these guys out, and then when the 4 spawn comes, then I will go ahead and use all of the consoles. Alright, so here they come. Let's see here. Oh crap, they got put all over my bars here. So, well, let's start out with just the one from this ship. Did it take anything offline? Doesn't look like it. Didn't even see the particles of it there, really. Sensor Disruption Field, let's try this one. That was from the Raider. I think that's just a placate. We've also got our Resonant Dissipation Matrix. This is the one that gives you the all damage resistance rating, which is a nice one there. Gives you that shield buff. It's actually a pretty decent survivability type ability. I'm missing the one from the Resurrect. Where did that one go? There's the Energy Dissipator. Energy Discharge Array, this is it. This one's kind of weird. Let me see if I can get right in the middle of them here. But this one, this is from the Resurrect. Kind of see those electricities, how it's draining from ships nearby. And then at the end, it puts out this beam. So there you go. Again, not super impressive. This one is about to come back online here. I want to do this one more time. Just to get a little bit more range. I want to see if it says it's a projectile. There it is. And there it hit. That was it. I don't know if anything went offline or not. Yeah, I mean, it's just not an impressive console at all. I'm not super impressed with any of these Breen consoles, to tell the truth. Outside of a drain build, I would not recommend running them. Alright, let's start actually putting out some damage here. There we go. So the carriers came in. So let's just finish this out here. Have a little bit of fun. See this ship, the Chel Boalg, in action one more time before we close out the video. Gonna use this. Man, it's just a fun ship to fly. It's very maneuverable. I mean, it almost feels like an escort. I mean, it's just slightly less maneuverable than an escort. But it's fast. You can keep all of your beams on target really easily with this build. You got that pedal to the metal going. And one thing that's actually kind of funny is, I don't know if you noticed, but when you use hazard emitters on this ship, you can actually see the beam coming out and like healing it. I'll do it here at the end here once we clear this out, because it actually looks quite funny. It's like you're shooting a beam at yourself to heal yourself. Whereas with most ships, usually the... Let's use this one more time. Here, take that. There's the torpedo. Go get him. Energy dissipator. Go! Let's use that. Let's use this. There we go. So yeah, let me just quickly show you what I was talking about earlier. But so when you use hazard emitters on yourself, you know, with most ships you don't really see the beam. It just, your ship glows green for a little bit. But here on this one, you can actually see, because of where the hard point is for the hazard emitters and where the target is, you'll actually target itself. See, it's like shooting a beam into from the nose of your ship into the bridge to heal yourself. Looks kind of funny. Just a funny little observation there, but man, what can I say? This ship is awesome. It performs really well. It looks great. It particularly looks really good with the Iconian shield visuals. I mean, there's so few downsides to this ship. It's almost hard for me to complain. Yeah, let me just back up a little bit here. Take one more look at this ship and close out the video, because, yeah, I mean, wow, this thing is amazing. It performs incredible, looks great. It's quote-unquote free. Yes, you did have to grind for it with the winter event, but it was well worth it. Just look at this thing. It looks awesome. I really love the Iconian to the red and black. Whew, it looks sweet. But yeah, guys, that is the ship. That is the Chel Boalg Warship Tier 6, the new Breen ship from the winter event. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found the build overview helpful. Hopefully a lot of that detail will help you acquire these items for yourself, and you know, maybe get you started on a build for yourself. You know, this isn't really cookie cutter. I mean, there's There's lots of different variations you could use. You could shake things up, swap out some bridge officer abilities here and there, but you know, you can, at least with this build, you could see what the expected performance you can get with the ISA run. You can get 140k on this, no problem. I think in a coordinated team, you could do even better. So, man, just a great ship. Man, I just can't stop looking. It looks fantastic. What a great looking ship. Alright guys, but that is it. Definitely a great Christmas present for those of you out there who celebrate Christmas. This was a great gift from Cryptic. Yeah, just really great looking. Just looks amazing. Yeah, so little downsides on this ship. I mean, the only thing I could say bad about the ship is that it's slightly squishy. It's so maneuverable. Weapons layout, bridge officer layout, console layout, everything is so good. I mean, really the only downside is the survivability is slightly low, but you know, it's a destroyer. I mean, that's what you get. So you can build around it, you can work around it. I mean, this ship is just awesome. All right, guys, that is it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and that's all. Bye for now.